Hello, everybody. My name is Stephanie MoDavis, and I'm grateful to be presenting at the FUNL conference this year. It is my first time as a presenter, but I've been presenting for quite a long time, and I'm delighted to share my wisdom amongst this beautiful space of people working so diligently to try to educate the masses. So my presentation today is called The Man in You, addressing the inversion and the rebirth of the sacred feminine. So come along with me on this journey and let's begin. So as I mentioned, my presentation is called The Man in You, man being in quotations, addressing the inversion and the rebirth of the sacred feminine. So from this title, you can see that my presentation today is specifically geared towards women gaining a deeper understanding of what's going on within our psyche, within our emotional body, and helping us to really address and heal some of the ways in which, as Carl Jung puts it, our animus runs amok in the unconscious. So the rebirth of the sacred feminine is quite a trend. A lot of people are discussing it, sharing wisdom about it. And I believe what I've seen in the aggregate at large is still a very base understanding. And although we're trying in our attempts to bring education, it's all helpful. My presentation today is going to take it slightly deeper into the psyche, the psychology. I'm going to be talking a lot about this gentleman right here. His name is Carl Jung. For those of you who don't know who Carl Jung was, he was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology. He was a prominent figure in the field of psychology and made significant contributions to our understanding of the human psyche. So you may have heard of the book, The Red Book. The anima and the animus is part of Carl Jung's work, and it's going to be the part that we're sharing mostly here today in this presentation. And one of my favorite quotes, I'm sure you've heard of already, by Carl Jung is, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate." So somehow in our attempts to evolve, to progress, culture, society, humanity, we got lost and in fact inverted. So following is a fundamental framework to help understand masculine and feminine energy. By sharing the shadow, we can begin to integrate for a more unified whole. My disclaimer is I have been working this process internally and externally for about 8 years now, in depth. And I'm still in the process. So this is my progress and my framework where I draw upon influences through science, psychology, spirituality, and I'm humbly sharing my story of what has helped me so profoundly. So my way may not be your way. So take what resonates within my fundamental framework, and you can leave the rest and begin to cultivate your own myth, your own story, and your own healing journey. I am a proponent of self-healing. And this has been, what I have put together. So this quote here by Sigmund Freud, "The mind is like an iceberg. It floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water." And as I said, getting into this presentation, we've made significant attempts in exposing some of these deeper layers of the iceberg, so to speak. I'm going to, as you see, go just slightly deeper here, and we'll see how it goes. So let's just begin. So I'm very clear on my belief system. Men and women are biologically different, yet complementary. So just some scientific facts before we begin. The size of the brain is established at an early age, with the whole brain volume at 95% of its adult size by the age of 4. However, the brain continues to develop through teenage, with many of these changes being sex-specific. In the adult brain, the overall cerebral size is larger in men than women, but there are specific parts that are larger in women. So you can continue to read this. This is just some scientific jargon. And, this study was from Columbia. And basically, I'm here to tell you that my beliefs and the scientific belief system accurately is that men and women are biologically different, yet complementary. And that's the way that it should be. Carl Jung also describes the animus as the inner masculine aspect of the woman. Okay, so this is really critical. I'm going to be drawing upon aspects of Carl Jung's work, and it's critical for us to remember this frame as we go deeper. I'm speaking about biological women for the most part today. Okay, I'm speaking to the biological women. Men who are watching, awesome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm sure you'd like to gain a richer understanding of women at large, right? We still are very much learning about each other. So, but I am using this workshop today to address women, all right? So the animus is the female, the biological female's perspective and aspect, this inner masculine within, okay? So think of it as their yang energy, eros, or the recessive male within the female. And again, just stick with me. We're going to just layer by layer go through this. So let's see here. This means that it is a force. It is accumulated and pre-existing. Okay. So when we discuss the animus in women, it's an accumulation and pre-existing of all the conditioning and all of the belief systems that you have within your own psyche of your experiences, whether accumulated or pre-existing, of all of the masculine male energy within your life. So it's not just father figure, familial, although that's often where it starts consciously, but is this accumulation of experiences. It's cultural, it's societal, it's in institutions now, and it's also epigenetic and generational. So again, this pre-existing quality, this collective unconscious that's within you, within the genome, within who we are as women, and it runs deep, is what I'm trying to say. So a lot of today's presentation is addressing what I called, or what we call the inversion. And I know that many of you watching this know exactly what we're trying to say is when our attempts to evolve, we devolve, we go backwards. And often this is because we have overlying traumas that are within our psyche, within our emotional field, within our body, within our soma, that are blocking our true vision and order of, how we should be thinking and acting within the world. So this trauma is not your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. So that's a quote by Brianna Waste, and you may have heard that one before too. It's quite beautiful. So the animus, and I'm going to remind you here for a little bit, which means the male aspect within a female psyche, this collective energy, lies within the deep realms of the unconscious mind. So this is the parts of the mind that you normally don't have clear access to. It is the eternal image a woman has within the amalgamation of her personal male forms. So I hope this is making sense and you're getting a clear picture of this here. So another quote, the unconscious realms cannot be analyzed away, cannot be defeated in battle, but by conscious confrontation, can be taken into account within the limits of one's own individual capacity. So Dr. Sharon Martin, who's a Jungian analyst, said this, and this quote within itself could be unpacked. So basically, you can't use aspects of the conscious left brain to try to analyze this aspect of the right brain or getting in touch with these more unconscious parts of you. It's experiential, it's lived, it's presented, it's revealed. It's this beautiful interplay of introspection and then living and experiencing within the world to start to have this open reveal itself to you. And as Sharon says here, it's taken into account within the limits of your own individual capacity. And everybody's capacity is different to bring this consciousness to light. And it has a lot to do with how you're caring for yourself, how you're nourishing yourself, where you're surrounding yourself and in what environments. What is your schedule like? Do you have many responsibilities, many kids and work? And do you have time? This kind of work truly takes time. It's not just presented in a book, as I said, to be analyzed, integrated, and now we're moving on and things are all well and good in the world. It's not how this process works. All right, so let's begin by just revisiting some of these animus or male qualities. And I want to be clear here, the animus has really good positive qualities, but it also has these shadow and negative traits, where we'll get into here in a moment. But first, left side brain, energetic, dynamic, assertive, outgoing and extroverted, speaking and reasoning skills, analyzing, logic or the logos, time awareness, grammar, number, math skills, computation skills, realistic, linear, and strategic. And this is by no means all of them, but this gives you a good framework for understanding the qualities of healthy, positive, masculine animus traits. Cool picture. So animus alchemy, an internal talk of one person with another who is invisible, as in the invocation of a deity, communion with one's true self, or one's good angel. I think that's a really deep, beautiful quote by Martin Rolandus, A Lexicon of Alchemy. You can look him up more if you like. Again, sitting and listening to this material takes bandwidth, right? So what we're seeing here, animus alchemy, bringing this aspect of a female's animus to light, can look like an internal talk with one person with another who's invisible, right? And very often when we're unconscious of this, females can often think that this aspect of the animus is them. It's them. And in fact, it merges with their personality often within the world. And hence why we see aspects of this inversion playing out in real times, because we've mistaken aspects of our animus and it's become possessed to the degree that that's now us showing up in the world. We can't decipher and distinguish between our true nature and the trauma overlays and imprints and patterns that we have accumulated within our life. Make no mistake, the goal is to get back to one, right? Oneness, not separation and polarization and bifurcation. But in order to get to the one appropriately, you have to break down, distill, and really look at your parts separately. And this gets to, this feels multi-phrenic, as my friend says, not just bipolar, but multi-phrenic, as you start to look at your separate selves that you've cultivated within the ego realm to survive and thrive, and to really address what's coming up in these individual states and how you've contributed to often ways to protect and keep self, aspects of you to navigate within this world. So again, time, patience, taking apart to regenerate wholly and properly, not just rush to conclusions of implementations and you haven't really dissected aspects of yourself to come together more holistically. All right, so now we're going to just bring in another aspect, which is authentic feminine energy traits. Okay, so this could be more so describing the right brain, but it is the right and left that are actually working together. But again, just to dissect so we have a greater understanding, authentic feminine energy traits: receiving, proper expression, allowing, opening, choosing, connecting, community, beautifying, intuiting, desiring, spontaneity, environment, quantum field, and depth of wisdom. And it takes time, a lot of time, sometimes lifetimes, to embody authentic feminine energy. And again, within the world and the realm that we reside in at this time, you need to apply some grace, because it is true that many of us, male and female, are living in a state of psychic immaturity and emotional unawareness, claiming that we're adults and we're not even close. And that's not to mention our infantile state of our spiritual connection and awareness. Carl Jung talks a lot about dreams, using dreams as a way to access the unconscious. And I've experienced this myself, and it's just a phenomenon that I thought was kind of cool, and sharing it with you guys. Again, I'm very much just sharing this with you. No hierarchy. I don't claim to know more than anyone else. This is just my level of awareness in the moment. So take in, again, what resonates with you and leave the rest. So women moving into the exploration of the animus, again, the aspects of her inner masculine within the subconscious in dreams or visions, tend to move up, moving up into the heavenly realms, right? So you may see or envision or be attracted to things like staircases, elevators, like moving up, which I just thought was so interesting, because I definitely, in my experiential, in my life, in the real world, I have lived this out. So I've internally have been doing the work coupled with experiencing this in my life. It's this attraction towards elevators, and just like something psychically within me could shift and tap into this awareness moving up. And I've actually had a lot of visions with my animus, who I don't want to get into this right now, but I've had an embodiment, a male embodiment, project and be in my life as a form of my animus, meeting in elevators and moving up. So just very, very interesting. So symbolizing the workings of elevating awareness and cultivating deeper consciousness, incorporating the healthy masculine principle, the logos, right? So moving up into this wisdom for the female, can be signified in this aspect of moving up. And conversely, it's also interesting. They often say that for the male who's working on his anima, which is his inner feminine, can have dreams or visions or sensations of going down into the basement, down into the depth, down into the shadow, down into the darkness. So I just thought that was kind of cool and interesting. So as we begin our journey, life seems to take on a mystical, mythopoetic form. It is difficult to live and perform daily tasks unless you really surrender to the higher mind and guidance, and you start to really trust your process. Again, these are words, but the depth of what I'm saying and unpacking this is hard to grasp. And just really sit with this. When you work on this archetypal energy, It's difficult because it seems so disconnected from your everyday life, and it is. So there's this proclivity towards disassociation or kind of checking out from reality because you're going so deep into the psyche and into yourself that sometimes we forget that we also have to live our life as well. And for myself, I've cultivated a life where I've had a lot of time to do the inner depths of this work. As so far as my scheduling and my timing, I have that time. So I have really, because I've had the time, I always have to encourage myself to make sure that I'm taking my wisdom and my learnings and experiencing it in the world, living my life, really going out. So there has to be a balance. And I've experienced and witnessed frustration in individuals who start to do this work. And there's almost a jealousy or envy that they might not have the time. Or they may have significant responsibilities around this work. And for them, I just would like to say, which I always say, nothing is by mistake. You found this work when you were ready to find this work, and trust your higher guidance and just trust the process that you're going to get what you need in the time that you have. Again, remember, you cannot analyze your way into this awakening. So you're gonna mess up the progress if you try to get frustrated and compartmentalize it. And how do I get it in? And how do I structure my life? You have to relax. You have to trust. You do have to have some faith within this aspect of you that your world, your life, your experiences are going to guide you and give you what you need along the way. So free your mind, just relax. We cannot analyze our way to sacred femininity. I'm sorry. This is lifespan work. This is process work, and it doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't have an end. Okay. It's like the alpha and the omega. It's just there. It's going to be there. It's not going away. Just relax, trust, and begin. And I've had to remind myself of this 1,000 times. Often you want to rush the process. When you come into this awareness, how do I get all the information and gather all the resources and connect with all the right people so I can be in my higher self and have the life that I want and cultivate my dream life and my proper career and proper partner? You got to relax. It's lifespan work if you're going to do it right. So some knowledge. Now, again, I'm going to contradict myself here because, there is two aspects of this. There's multiple aspects. There are things you can do. Okay. There are things you can do to start the process of integrating your healthy animus. It's really, truly about relating in a healthy way. Again, not reacting from your traumas and your wounds, going deep into your true self and being able to express your gifts and your shortcomings within the world with a level of confidence and a degree of grace. So again, it's really about healthy relating. Healthy animus and healthy anima is about how you relate with yourself and how you express and relate within this world and what you do with your gifts that you were given. So self-inquiry and examination of your challenges and patterns. Again, very often the world is giving you examples every single day of the work that you need to do. We've been conditioned to believe that I need to go to a book or gain specific knowledge. In the embodiment of the feminine, you realize that your lessons are being projected back to you every single day within the words of your children or your boss or coworkers or your neighbor or your world, or what's being presented to you is an opportunity to distill and alchemize behaviors and look at your patterning of how you relate and react and use that as your educational model as well. So explore your epigenetic lineage and your family constellation. This is interesting. It's been helpful for me along the way. There's many resources that I can direct you to for those sorts of specialties. Examining your early relationships to your mother and your father. Again, these were more often your first conscious relating demonstrations, through the anima and the animus. So for the woman integrating the animus, it'd really be examining your relationship with your father. And what is the energy you feel when you think about your father and the men in your life? Remember, there's also the collective and the pre-existing patterning as well. So as women, we carry some of this energy around what we feel men are, right, from the past. But also, we have to really be specific at addressing right now in history. How are we as women energetically perceiving the masculine? And what are we projecting, right? So, very crucial and critical to look at that. The reclamation of what you lost along your childhood. So, I use this terminology rather than saying inner child work, because what I'm noticing, and again, I'm very much within my own process, but what I've noticed is that we can get lost in inner child work and healing work from our past. We can get lost in shadow work and just keep staying in the shadow. We have to remember that the reason we do shadow work, the reason why we do this kind of work, is to simply go back to reclaim what's been lost, what's been overlain with trauma from either parental projection or societal conditioning. And we want to go back just to understand, to reclaim that which we need to embrace and embark on in our current life. Use creative outlets to bring forth the unconscious. This is very helpful. This is related a lot with the second and feminine aspects of the chakra system, which is to tap in, use your creative forces. And very often you don't feel creative unless you're tapped in, but you can begin that process by, using your creative outlets, singing, dancing, art, just creation in general, to help open the depths to see more clearly into the unconscious. Support from those whom have experiential wisdom with discernment. Again, it's tricky, guys. It's really tricky when you're seeking out mentorship around shadow work, because very often, if there's not a really good level of wisdom, you might be getting projection from the mentors. So be cautious, really be aware. A lot of this can be done by yourself with minimal assistance from people that have this kind of knowledge and wisdom. Don't become overly reliant. Remember, this is about cultivating your own mythopoetic journey, your own healing, your own self-healing journey. Reading and educating can be helpful. Somatic body work can be helpful. It's been exceptionally helpful for me to move energy. Yoga, breath work, just walking, being in nature has been very healing for me. Researching archetypes, and then using aspects of amplification and active imagination. Again, letting yourself go there, letting yourself amplify some of these visions and imaginations that you're having. Emotional processing is really helpful as well. I have here path to self-healing and the self-inquiry and exploration stage. Okay, so again, this is very deep psychological work, and you have to use discernment, because there's a borderline of neurosis that can start to accumulate and happen if you're not also grounding yourself out in the real world. Okay, so we have to have a level of maturity that we use to approach this kind of work. So the experiential realm, day-to-day integration, and living your journey. Remember, I said this is lifespan processing. You will need to make many mistakes. Progress is not perfection. You must continue to go out and take action. It is the experiential part of the feminine. Your life is already guiding you if you would just trust and listen. Pay attention in your life. Get in present time and use what the field is presenting to you as your guidepost, which I mentioned already. And if you don't like what you see in your life, change your inner state. There are 4 main stages of development for the animus within women. The first personification of the animus or the realization is presented as a physical force or power. The second stage, he presents initiative and ability for action. The third stage is when he becomes the word, the logos, often presenting as a clergyman, professor, doctor, somebody with great knowledge. The final stage, he becomes a mediator of the religious experience, acquiring new meaning in life, meaning this interplay of these energies, and this animus starts to mature and become conscious within the psyche of the feminine. So then there's this relationship between the right brain and the left brain, and they get along. They're not at odds with each other anymore, but they're more so working together, and they're alchemically kind of merging into this one mature state of being. This is critical information. This is where we bring in the shadow. And very often I've learned by contrast, meaning I learned by making mistakes. And this framework has really helped and guided me to work on my own patterning in ways that I can improve myself. So I want to talk about, which we already talked about, some authentic feminine energy. But what I want to talk about is, what does it look like in behaviors and relating when we're operating from the wounded feminine? Now I'm going to build upon this, so hang out with me here for a second, because this is really going to blow your mind, I think. So wounded feminine energy, shame, codependent relationships and dependency, people, drugs, addictions, over explaining yourself, taking, expecting, guilt, scarcity consciousness, doubting, shrinking, blaming, uncertainty, martyring yourself, and this over submissive state. Okay? This is the aspects of the opposite of the embodiment of the healthy feminine energy. All right? Hang out with me here. Now we're going to talk about the masculine. All right? We already talked about some of the conscious masculine healthy behaviors: upholding of sovereignty, pursuing, action, giving, solving, identifying, structure, holding in place, accomplishing, awareness, discernment. The wounded masculine, this animus that's run amok, is distrusting, controlling, overprotecting, falsely judging, blaming, directing, need to overachieve, the workaholic energy, demanding, scrutinizing, redoing, reaction, need for perfectionism. Okay? So what has happened within the world is that we've inverted. And now externally, it is my belief system that because we don't understand this psychic pollution that's going on within ourselves from traumas and collective unconscious, is that we're acting out inversion. So in this discrepancy between, gender and masculine and feminine, I see more in my life and existence and in the collective unconscious women acting out in the world the unhealthy, unchecked animus energy in the wounded masculine energy. And then I'm going to go back for a second to this. And men in their wounded anima state and the inversion within the real world, acting in the wounded feminine state. This is the problem. We need to understand what's happening, work on developing the self and the psyche and releasing the psychic pollution of the trauma, and work with the collective imprinting so we can go back and move towards this state of authentic feminine and masculine energy again, right? So we see a lot of men acting in the wounded feminine energy. It's passivity, real true passivity. and women being controlling and dominating and bitchy and empowered and all of these things, right? Because we've lost our way. All right. So who is she? She is your power, your feminine source, the web weaver, the life force. The first time, the 20th time, you may not recognize her. Or pretend not to hear her as she fills your body with ripples of terror and delight. But when she calls, you'll know you've been called. Then it's up to you to decide if you will answer. I am telling you, this feminine wound of not feeling seen, heard, understood, appreciated, loved, burnout, this is what's trying to make way and form into your consciousness. But the aspects of that inverted animus energy is not letting her in. It's not letting her in. This is why trauma work and doing this work and just listening, being open to perceive differently, connecting yourself with the right people and surrounding yourself in the right energy is critical for you to truly wake up to balancing your feminine energy. Some common occurrences that happen along this journey, which are normal, okay? One is projection. It's a natural psychic function. When it becomes a problem is when there's work to do within us, right? We want to begin to be aware of our possible projections. So projection is very normal, is that you're projecting your beliefs, your ideologies, and even your unconscious onto other people. And again, it is a blind spot. You can't see when you start really working with the animus, the ways in which you're projecting this need that you have deep within you to get in touch with your inner true feminine source. You project those unmet needs onto other people, even our children, especially our children. And it's gonna come at a very big cost. It's gonna come at a very big cost. We're already seeing it playing out in the world. Again, a level of projection is normal. But when you start doing this work, sometimes those deeper aspects of those unmet needs that have been desiring to be seen and heard start coming to the forefront. And very often as women, and I've done this too, is that you can find somebody who you link up with, who fits like a puzzle piece for you to project your animus onto. And this happens in relationships. And this is why we're having a problem with authentic relating, is because we don't even know ourselves to relate properly with another. And, you know, if you're lucky, you link up with a man who's also projecting his anima onto you perfectly. And this is what we call a trauma bond, but it's also a potential for healing. But the degree of work it takes for you both to become conscious of what's playing out is incredibly challenging, because the world tells you this is a trauma bond and he's a narcissist, she's a narcissist, this is that, and you pathologize it and you lose your opportunity to do the work together, right? So what is really yours? What is coming forth that has been stored in the unconscious? What are your triggers? Triggers are always a great learning lesson. I've used triggering and mirror work for so much deep internal healing. Whatever frustrates you, instead of going to the blame game right away, look at how that may exist within you or within an unmet need within you that's buried so deeply within the psyche that you can barely access it. And often as you go in, that animus, the ego, is going to want to protect you from getting into it because it doesn't want to be hurt. So there's a battle, there's this internal battle that's taking place as you're stripping away this psychic pollution to get into what your true, self is and where, what your needs truly are. There's this battle of the ego to just act out in any possible way to keep you from that true self. What are your perceived negative patterns and loops, right? You all know this. I've physically seen this. I've had these visions in my reality where I've been in situations so many times where I just see like a record, just like a broken record, just cycling and repeating over and over again. And I'll look at an individual and I won't see their face anymore. I just see the record. And I'm like, whoa, I am caught in a loop and it's got to stop. This person or this situation can't go any further until I change. And very often it's they got to change. They're not changing, right? It's the radical responsibility of your participation within the situation. Okay. So we need to start to unpack objectively, mirror work, third party input. There was a time where I just went up to people who I really cared about and I said, what are my shadow? What's my blind spots? What do you feel about me? If you had to say a few things about me, what would they be? Honestly, don't sugarcoat it. And I've used that as constructive criticism and feedback to work on self-improvement. So you got to get mature. You got to be able to handle the constructive criticism and really face yourself, truly. Loving kindness as you reveal the roots of common occurrences as they arise. So this eventually is where we want to go. Alchemical marriage, the alchemical union. It's a process of healing and integrating one's opposite energy. For women, it's the animus. Men, it's the anima, in order to cultivate healthy relating within and without, right? So this union happens within yourself. You can look at it as this awareness of right-left brain hemisphere understanding and this ability for one not to dominate the other. And remember, culturally, societally, collectively, epigenetically, we've been told, it's been propagated and proselytized that the left analytical brain is the way to go. So it's an epic battle to invite her to come forth, because everything in yourself is going to try to block you from that, and everything in the world is going to try to block you from that and tell you that you're going about it the wrong way. So that's my presentation. It's an introduction. It's a framework. I hope you guys were able to take some pictures, and if you have any comments, questions, concerns, you want to chat, please reach out to me. I have a beautiful biblical quote here, but by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace toward me was not in vain. On the contrary, I worked harder than any of them, though it was not I, but the grace of God that is within me. My website is stephaniemodavas.com. And I have a nonprofit that I'm very passionate about. It's called Awakening Healthcare. And it's just to help to shift the collective needle on what is awakening, how does it affect us physically, spiritually, emotionally, and to provide a soft landing for people who have been deeply steeped and conditioned in the left brain to start to open and to receive the wisdom of the right brain, and to start to, hopefully go into some balance. So I want to thank you guys very much for taking the time to hang out with me today. This is lifespan work. Remember, it's important. It's very deep. It's unusual. It's mythological. Be open, take your time, and please do not forget, as I have so many times, to still enjoy your life and to get out there, to connect with the community, and ultimately to just continue to share love and kindness in this world. Thank you, everybody.
The myth of my life that lived through me, and the dark reflections mystery. How